Okay, hi everybody. My name is Dr. Richard McGee. I'm the Academic Director of a new MSc in Financial Data Science. So in this presentation, I'm just going to go through a little bit of the background as to why we have this new MSc. I'm going to go through some of the strong points of the Banking and Finance faculty, why we're well positioned to deliver this. And I'm also going to go through the curriculum a little bit. And at any point, if you have any questions, there's a Q&A button available to you at the bottom of Zoom, which you can type in questions, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end for about 10 minutes, where you can feel free to ask any questions you have about the program. Okay, so just to start off on the background, people are probably aware technology is transforming banking, finance, and insurance sectors. A report just came out last week from Bearing Point on digital leaders in Ireland in 2021, and the highest scoring company in that report was a bank. So, you know, while that's an Irish report, I think that's pretty consistent across banking and finance internationally and the insurance sector. So there's been a big revolution, a fintech revolution, and as with any major changes, they require investment, and it's creating a lot of new employment roles. And it's driving demand for training and dedicated fintech and data science masters internationally. And we're starting to see these appear at leading institutions in different countries across the world. So what are these key trends? What's driving these changes? There's a lot more data. Okay, so we live in a world now where there's a lot more data available, and people are making more data-driven decisions and leveraging techniques such as machine learning to make decisions based on that data. There's a lot of non-traditional data sources now. So we're talking about, instead of forecasting, we've so much data now, even getting a handle on the current levels of data, something called nowcasting is emerging. And that's where you're trying to get a snapshot of what the current situation is, just handling all the data that's available. So some examples of that are digital footprint data. So when people go online, they leave a trace of, you know, their practice and their network of friends, colleagues. So even if you don't have data available, say, to come up with a credit decision on somebody, you can actually classify them based on their contacts online. So if somebody moves country, for example, from Ireland to the UK or vice versa, very often they wouldn't get credit because they don't have a history in the country. But now there's new techniques emerging where they're starting to classify people through their online connections and network analysis. We're also seeing things where people are using non-traditional data sources such as satellite photographs of department store car parks to determine, you know, sales, the volume of emails that they're or receipts that they're emailing out, and other non-conventional data sources are using microwave guns to measure the level of oil and oil inventories. So all of these data collection techniques, they require processing, data processing, interpretation, cleaning, and analysis, very often using machine learning techniques. We're seeing account consolidation and how banks and financial institutions interact with their customers, and how many different accounts are consolidated now, and improved user interfaces and financial planning. So different tools and applications that help people to save, even, you know, passively saving by rounding up their change. And that's going to get bigger and bigger as with more and more information about people's habits and about their lifestyles. That data can be used to inform better financial planning decisions, better retirement decisions. You know, there's a whole world of data that's there that can be leveraged. We're seeing economies of scale, crowdfunding. So traditional sources of raising funds for companies, IPOs. Now you have initial coin offerings. You have crowdfunding. So that's cutting out the middleman. Whereas before, you know, a company might go to an investment bank to organize an IPO, it could be very expensive. Now they can go directly to customers and, you know, get thousands of people investing in them over a lunchtime, for example. And now one of the major changes we're seeing is in transaction technology, blockchain, smart contracts, and cryptocurrency. So again, you're cutting out the middleman there. You have distributed ledgers where people can exchange contracts with each other without a middleman. So all of this is really shaking up the finance, insurance, industry. So in Smurfit and banking and finance, what kind of experience do we have in this? Well, we're already working in all of these areas, data-driven research topics in investment, portfolio management, risk management, asset pricing, credit rating and default risk, operational risk, sustainable investments, energy, economics, corporate finance, corporate governance, and banking regulation. And all of those, because we're doing research and leading research, they require leading edge data sets and leading edge data processing techniques. So what kind of skills and tools do we have in-house? Data collection and cleaning, database development, a lot of machine learning experience, network analysis, textual analysis, and econometrics. And people are publishing in the leading journals in their field in all of these areas. So some specific research examples. So blockchain and cryptocurrency research. We've done research where we're looking at the actual blockchain level, looking at transactions on the blockchain. So I've done some research looking at the gambling levels on the blockchain for Bitcoin, for example, as a measure of sentiment. There's people doing textual analysis, looking at social media and automatically parsing text from social media as an information source. Machine learning and data science for asset management. So asset management is also, it's changing a lot as well. There's the emergence of robo-advising, which is, automated advisors for people, where you would input people's preferences and portfolios would automatically come out. So they're, while they're designed by humans, there's no human actually in the process. Data science for event prediction, operational risk, fraud detection, and then AI for anti-money laundering and greenwashing. Okay, so greenwashing is where companies claim that they're being green and they're cutting down on emissions, but they really aren't when you dig deeper. So that's just some of what's going on in-house, and in banking and finance, we're also part of an EU-wide research program into Fintech, which is dealing with all of these topics and collaborating with leading researchers across all of Europe. So who is this course for? So it's suitable for people with a technical background, so graduates of engineering, computer science, maths, and business, with a talent for and interest in applying data science. So really you could be from a more STEM background and you want to improve your business skills and go to the business school. Or on the flip side, you could be someone from a more business background who wants to improve your technical skills. Right? And the curriculum will cater for both. So in the autumn semester, we have a common program across the masters. There's a quant methods for finance to brush people up with quantitative methods that they'll need for all the other courses and for any projects that they're doing. Then the other courses are all about capital markets, how markets work, how finance works, derivative securities, financial analysis, analyzing companies, econometrics, and financial theory. So again, that would bring you up to speed on financial markets, finance, and anybody coming from even a technical background, a science or engineering undergrad would get up to speed on that. So I myself, I did the MSc in quant finance in Smurfit years ago. I was an engineer undergrad, and I did a very similar curriculum to this, and it was perfect. I didn't have any issue with not having any economic or business background. So then in the spring semester, we're getting into the financial data science specific topics. Banking and finance in the digital age is going to cover things like why financial markets are changing, what's changing in finance, insurance, what's driving it. So things like blockchain, crowdfunding, and what are the impact of all of these going to be? Another big one is central bank currencies. So a number of central banks are talking about introducing digital currencies. And of course, if you have a digital currency at the central bank, it bypasses the need to have a deposit in a real bank And it raises questions again about where banks will get their funding. There's a huge number of questions that arise out of this, out of a switch to a digital currency. So that's what that module will consider, all of these changes that are happening and what their impact is going to be on the existing financial sector. Then there's programming for financial data science. That's going to be Python based and using Python for finance. And so using packages like pandas that can deal with time series data and financial panel data, all of that. So it will be an in-depth Python course. Financial data science will be looking at some of the unique financial data sets that we're using in our own research. For example, I mentioned the blockchain. There's a number of different specific financial data sets that you can use. And the idea would be to apply techniques to that data. Okay, so to get familiar with dealing with data, putting it in a database, querying the data, and using analytics on the data. Okay, so there might be textual analysis involved in that in one part of the course. There'll be some applications of machine learning to specific data sets, clustering analysis, for example. On the blockchain, wallets are all anonymous, but you can sort of imply that one user owns a book using clustering algorithms. So these are the type of things that you'll cover in this financial data science module. And machine learning for finance will be applying machine learning to finance data sets. So it could be a trading algorithm, for example, using information that's taken off Twitter. Again, you could be using neural nets in that. So a range of machine learning approach, support vector machines, clustering algorithms applied to financial data. And then in the summer semester, you can take a number of different paths. One of them is a module-based one, where you can take additional modules. A second one is an industry internship, and the third one is a Fintech Incubator project. Okay, so this is where you will have the opportunity to bring a product through the whole product cycle. So from at the start, you'll be encouraged to identify a gap in the market due to this fintech revolution that we're undergoing at the moment. To try and find an app that answers some question or some new need. Okay, so there's market research involved in that. And then you will take that through the whole product development cycle. Ideally, then you'll write a really good business plan at the end of that. You'll also, in the course, it'll be taught. So there'll be some lectures on venture capital and how a startup secures funding. So basically everything in the product development cycle. And in UCD, we have Nova UCD, which supports startups. The whole idea of Nova UCD is to encourage and develop startups that come out of UCD. So your target at the end of the module is to create a genuine application for support for startup funding. Now, not everybody is going to come up with an app that will go the full, that will be successful. What you will be assessed on is how you approach all of the steps. Okay, so it isn't going to be a pass-fail based on you becoming a millionaire at the end of the project by launching an app overnight. There's an educational aspect to it where you're learning about product development and a product cycle. But if you do have a product that has potential, this will be a great way to get support for that. In terms of employment roles, then, so there's a lot of, as I mentioned at the start, there's a lot of change, there's a lot of investment. Banks are investing, investment banks are investing, all the companies are investing in this area. Globally, the number of jobs in data science are trending upward exponentially. So IBM had in a report last year where they were expecting an increment of 364,000 jobs last year, bringing it up to 2.7 million data scientists globally. And more than 100 billion of venture capital has been invested in fintech companies since 2010. Okay, so and we're still early in that. I would say it's a massive growth area. So some example employment roles, you know, that you potentially could work across the spectrum of finance, insurance, and consulting services, investment banks, insurance companies, payment and credit card companies, retail banking, fintech startups, or the big four consulting companies. And just if you do a Google search and you look at financial data science, financial data scientists, and have a look at some of the live roles, all the investment banks seem to be hiring in this area, and they have structured internships as well. There's a number of fintech companies looking for analysts, data analysts, and even the Federal Reserve are looking for data scientists. So across the whole spectrum, there's a range of job opportunities. Okay, so for further information, if you go to smurfitschool.ie, that's a good landing point. And you can email Smurfit Admissions, and there's some scholarship information there as well. Okay, so thanks everybody. I'll drop off now and I'll stay on for any questions that people may have.
So I just want to introduce myself. Richard Murphy is my name, and I'm one of the admissions managers here in Smurfit Business School. I want to say thanks to Richard McGee for that presentation. I'm joined now by my colleague Felicity McGovern, who's a school manager and is involved with all things program management. We've just been receiving some questions and we're going to try to provide some answers. So I would say take this opportunity now. We've got about 10 minutes before we're due to finish off this presentation. So if you want to put into the Q&A section there any other questions that you might have, and we'll try to get to them. I think we answered some via text, but I might just read some out there just in case you haven't seen the Q&A section. So just bear with me a second and I'll just see if there's a sort of a good question there. Actually, just one of the attendees has asked, is there a GMAT required for the program, either full-time or part-time? And the simple answer to that is generally no. If you look at the requirements section on the website, we list the requirements, and I think Richard's already touched on those himself. There, as admissions manager, what we will look for is a very quantitative background, that you're good with sort of maths, that you have a maths sort of brain. So we will look at modules that you've completed. So again, you could come in from a STEM background, you could have a science course, you know, a physics course, or you could be from lots of different types of backgrounds, engineering, as Richard's already mentioned. But what we're looking to see is that you understand, you know, sort of the quantitative element, because there is, you know, a large amount of obviously quants in this particular program. And GMATs do provide a good sort of benchmark on your quantitative skills. They're probably more quantitative focused than they are sort of soft skills focused. So what I would say is that if you have completed a GMAT and maybe you have attained a reasonably good score, you know, by all means attach it to your application. But if you haven't done it, don't worry. If we feel that your background isn't quantitative enough, we'll get back to you and we'll maybe ask you or set you to do a GMAT test or potentially some other form of quantitative test. The GMATs are tough enough to study for to get a good score. So it's something that we would only really do earlier on. In that case, if we don't feel that you're good enough for this year, we might recommend next year and take a GMAT. So I hope that's kind of answered that question. Felicity, have you seen anything there that you might want to answer?
Yeah, thanks, Richard, and good morning, everyone. There's been a few questions about studying part-time. So I suppose just to briefly summarize how the part-time program works is that it's not a dedicated part-time program. Students would complete the program over 2 years instead of the full-time 1-year cycle. We do have sort of a format that we would encourage part-time students to follow a particular pathway when completing the program, so that it works well from an academic point of view. It's probably one that might be easier if candidates want to follow up directly through the admissions team, and I can give them a little bit more information about studying part-time, what the schedule might look like, how we've seen it work in the past, and just some other kind of guidance. That's probably the best way to handle those questions.
Yeah, and just to add to that, yeah, I think Felicity had mentioned that, you know, employer support is vital if you are obviously working, and that is definitely a case that we would encourage you to talk to your employer. And by all means, from our experience of those who've gone back to talk to their employer, generally speaking, if you pitch it in such a way that is that, look, I'm going to be learning this, I'll be applying what I'm going to do back to potentially to your working environment, it's a sort of an easier pitch, you know, to be able to get off for a morning or an afternoon here or there. So yeah, look, definitely it could be an option, but just bear that in mind. It is important at this stage. I think there is sort of another question or two there. There's in relation to, is there much overlap, or what's the difference between, say, this course and the business analytics and the quantitative finance programs? I mean, they're good questions. They are definitely all in the same sort of area. I think the one thing I would say, certainly in regards to business analytics, is that, look, you are definitely looking at the data side of things, undoubtedly, but look, it's the name's on the tin. It is very much focused towards the finance and fintech sector, as Richard.
Yes, I could probably answer some of those questions.
Yeah, go for it, Richard. I'll let you probably handle that one. Yeah, go for it.
Am I coming through? Can you hear me? Yeah.
I can't see you, but we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, well. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with the video here, because my video isn't, it says it's working, but it doesn't seem to. Yeah, so the programming language, so the difference between the MSc Quantitative Finance, obviously in the second semester there, we've got 4 specific modules that are all data science applied to finance modules. So people were asking what the programming language is. It will be Python. So Python will be the main language that we use. It's possible in the machine learning module, you might use some packages that are in OR. So whatever the packages that are being used in industry are, the leading packages are, you know, it makes sense to use those, but the main programming language would be Python. The software for finance will teach you Python from scratch. Okay, so you don't have to have programming before you go in. It will teach Python from scratch, and Python for finance. So using all of the packages that are in Python specifically for dealing with financial data, it's specifically dealing with financial data, and the applications are going to be things like portfolio management, investment, credit default prediction, you know, looking at basically financial applications the whole time. So that will be a big difference to the business analytics. And also in the first semester versus business analytics, you know, you're getting all of these modules that are educating you about how financial markets, capital markets work, derivatives. It's all very much finance based, you know, and so that will be the difference between those other programs.
Thanks, Richard. I just see another one here. Is the program appropriate for folks with an economics undergraduate degree? And so would that become my area? So it's hard to obviously to know, because I mean, certainly different countries use the word economics in slightly different ways. I know, for example, Italians use economics in a very much more of a business sense. So to be honest, one thing we have found with economics is that the quantitative background is potentially a little bit lighter than what we might look for. Maybe for this course or for our other finance courses. That's not to say that you haven't chosen electives or certain modules. So it really depends on your course, your university, what electives you've chosen. You know, again, have you got involved with extracurricular activities? Have you done a GMAT or other finance programs? So there's a lot of things that we look for. It's not just you know, down to your undergrad degree. So what I would say is that, look, you know, we can talk via admissions if you want to email to us at smurfit.admissions and at ucd.e. We can maybe start a conversation. But definitely, we wouldn't exclude you at all by having an economics degree. We'd need to see your transcripts and go from there. So I hope that's answered that one. Felicity, there's one question I saw. Then where was it again? Yeah, here, autumn trimester class is common for all finance programs. Do you want to maybe answer that one?
Yeah, I will, and Richard McGee might be able to kind of come in there as well. Yes, so the approach for 3 of our finance programs, so the MSc Financial Data Science, oh, actually it'll be the 4th. So it's the MSc Finance, the MSc Renewable Energy and Environmental Finance, and the MSc Quantitative Finance, and now the MSc Financial Data Science is joining in with the autumn trimester. So they have 6 modules that they take in the first term. All those students take them, and it gives a really good foundation for all the topics that we need our students to cover. And then there's a specialization trimester in spring, and then that leads into the summer, and where students then either they might go into like an internship option or a research project option, or sometimes some additional option modules in the summer term that they want to just complement what they've completed so far.
Okay, yeah, Richard, have you anything to add on that one yourself?
No, I think Felicity covered it there.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Yeah, and actually, the one thing I would say is that from missions point of view as well, that it's great because we are seeing a lot of it now to have this sort of suite of finance programs where each one would give a slightly different sort of outcome. So yeah, look, there's a common sort of area that these courses are in, but each would give quite different outcomes. And it's really great to have these kind of specialist masters in finance areas, and obviously business analytics and other sort of digital tech areas too. So I think it's it's great that all going well, that you definitely, if you're interested in this area, you'll definitely find a particular course that you will want to do. And I think it's key that you go and attend days like today and reach out to us and talk to us as to which one might suit you better or which one you might be slightly more eligible for. Again, one of the questions on the application form, if you've seen it already at this stage, is where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? And that's a really important question as admissions managers that we look at to see that you've done your homework, that you understand the curriculum, the outcomes that Richard's talked about, and that you've kind of thought through where you're going to be in, say, in 5 years' time, and that your expectations will be obviously matched by this program and things like that. So I think it's great that we have a new edition of this program. There was another question here just in relation to sort of course size or batch size. It's always slightly difficult to become sort of, when a course is so new, as to kind of what sort of size we tend to go for, but it's a pretty sort of wide area, but I'd say probably more likely about 35 to sort of 45 would probably be the sweet spot for this course. We do pride ourselves in Smurfit as having small class sizes, which obviously feeds back to a big ranking point that is across all of our programs, class sizes and sort of lecture to student ratios and things like that. So I think that's something that affects our rankings and shows us why we're so highly ranked, particularly in the finance areas. So I hope that's answered that question. We've probably got about another minute, so I'm just having a quick scan here of any other questions. Felicity, jump in if you see something, or Richard, if you see a question there that you feel like you want to answer. I think we've answered a few of those. Richard, there's one there just at the very end, and maybe in relation to blockchain, will the aspect of writing smart contracts be covered? Is that too specific, or could you answer that one?
Yeah, sorry, my connection dropped there while you were asking the question, but I got the bit about smart contracts. So yes, smart contracts will be covered in that module, which is banking and finance for the digital age, and the distributed ledger technology, blockchain, and smart contracts would all be covered in that. Was there another question? Because my connection had just dropped there.
No, just I think that was it, just in relation to a blockchain. Will that element be answered? So I think that's
I see a question.
Good. So
I see a question related to the MSc FDS versus business analytics again, and what would be easier for a career change. I mean, in my experience, finance companies are very keen on hiring people that are classified as finance people. Okay, so if you're going to work in finance, and they want to see that you have experience in finance, that you work for finance companies, and that is an advantage in terms of applying to a finance company. In terms of the switch the other way, I really don't know. If you want to switch to general data science, I'm that will be down to an employer. I wouldn't have any statistics on that, the number of people that have switched, from working in data science and finance to working into the more general. I mean, I would imagine there isn't an issue there. I think the issue is more the other way, in that finance can be a little bit clubby, and they can be a little bit, they want to see how much experience you have working in finance, certainly in investment, in any kind of an investment role. And that's what would potentially differentiate the two of them there.
Great, thanks Richard. I think we're just hitting our time here now. So I think the best thing I'd say is we might wrap this up. And obviously, if you have any further questions with regards to, you know, the nature of the course, the way it's run, admissions aspects, scholarships. Actually, scholarship is something that we didn't touch on. There are scholarships available. Would refer you to look at the scholarship section, obviously, on our website, because there's a number of different ones. Generally speaking, we've amalgamated a lot of scholarships this year into our academic excellence scholarship, which is more regional based and it's sort of merit based, depending on what kind of grade you're getting from your final degree. But there are other ones, and there's some needs-based ones, and there's even sports scholarship and things like that too. So definitely would encourage you to have a look at it. But the one thing I would say about scholarships, just make sure you can afford to do the course before you know, applying, because I think if you are reliant on a scholarship, but just how competitive our scholarships are with the amount of people who apply for them, you know, there's a sort of a, you know, I wouldn't say it's the best percentage on getting you know, a successful outcome of getting a scholarship, or certainly full funding or partial funding. So just be sure that you can do it. If you get a scholarship, it's like a bonus, and it's prestige as well, obviously. But do definitely try to seek your funding opportunities separately, and we can go from there. So I think that's the last thing I want to say. Felicity, Richards, anything you want to say? Final thoughts? Okay,
Yeah,
great
no,
stuff.
just yeah, nice to see you all.
Thanks, guys. So my thanks again to Felicity for joining us, Richard as well. And again, if you want to ask any further questions, it's smurfit.admissions@ucd.ie. Also, you can reach out to some current students on our website via a chat function as well called Ask a Student. So I'd encourage you to do that as well. So thanks for joining us, and we'll hope to see you soon.